Hey guys, Teresa here. Welcome back to my channel, Lost My Thread. I'm here today with a chatty catch-up video telling you what I got up to in the months of April and May. I usually include these chatty catch-up sections as part of my makes videos, but I had so much to share across the two videos from April and May, I decided I needed to split them up. So this is not going to be anything about sewing. If you want to see the sewing update, I will put a link up here and down below. Today I'm just going to catch you up with what I've been doing, and I have some bits to cross off my 25 for 2025. One of the reasons I wanted to put these 2 months together is because there were quite a lot of things that I started in April but didn't actually finish until May, and that is both with like my sewing but also things within my general life. So I'm going to start by catching up with some of the things from my 25 for 2025. If you are not familiar with that, again, I'll put a link down below to the video where I explained a bit more about it, but essentially it's 25 things I'm hoping to do this year. And the first thing I will mention is my Tim Burton, the year of Tim Burton we're calling it, where I'm working through all of Tim Burton's films. I will put up which ones I watched in April and May because I can't remember them, guys. I'm working through these. We have one left to go, and they're not always in order, the ones that we've been watching, and it's definitely something that's felt a bit like, all right, we said we're gonna do it, we've got to do it. I've not been loving the tail end. I think probably my favorite of the batch maybe was Beetlejuice, and that is very much there for Beetlejuice fans. So it's a bit of like a, you know, a nice one to see if you've watched the first one, but it's not that great as a standalone movie. I also liked Sweeney Todd probably better than I expected to. It wasn't something that I was expecting to enjoy, but it was quite fun and it was pretty funny. I enjoyed Tim Burton when he's a little bit more funny. We have been working through our Tim Burton bingo cards, which I told you guys about, and we got a bingo. So my husband and I just very much coincidentally happened to get bingo at the exact same time, which was our 5th appearance of Helena Bonham Carter. I'll pop up our bingo cards from the time I think I took a picture. We've still been working through them since just to see if we can fill the boards. I don't think we will, because these were things that we just dreamed up that we were expecting to see in Tim Burton movies, and they're not all necessarily going to be there. But because we got a bingo at the same time, we decided that we were just going to share the prize, which was a jigsaw puzzle. So in the month of April, I was putting together the hardest jigsaw puzzle that I have, which is a jigsaw puzzle of The Wave. It's a painting, Japanese painting you are quite likely to be familiar with. I really like the painting, and it was a really satisfying jigsaw puzzle to put together, but boy did it take time. I actually started off pretty early in April and I finished it partway through May, and that was just because of all the white space. Took forever. I took a photo of where I'd gotten to at the end of May, or end of April, sorry, just so you could see where I was and how I was having to put the pieces together. And I was basically putting together based on like the dimensions or the type of piece, so that way I could see what might slot in. I will say this was a fantastic jigsaw puzzle. One of the best jigsaw puzzles as far as like pieces fitting together, because so much of these were essentially like the same looking piece. How it was possible to be able to put one in and think, no, this one doesn't fit, this one does. I honestly cannot tell you how they did it. Each piece was so unique. When you knew when it fit and you knew when it didn't. It was really satisfying, even though it did take absolutely forever. Even the blue and white portion of The Wave took such a long time, but it was a nice one to make. I honestly did really enjoy it. I was just enjoying the slowness of the process. So then in May, I'd finished that one and I decided that we should just go ahead and roll on to the next one. And my husband and I worked together on the Tim Burton jigsaw puzzle that I picked up from the Design Museum. That was so perfect because it had a lot of the Tim Burton tropes that we put on our bingo cards. It was a fun jigsaw puzzle to put together. It wasn't as good as far as the pieces slotting in. It really wasn't too bad, but the thing that was the most annoying was that it was missing a piece. This was a brand new jigsaw puzzle. One of the side pieces did not fit. I have gone back to the Design Museum, and I think I need to go back on a day when a manager is in and do some kind of exchange, but I've left my jigsaw puzzle as it was completed because I don't really want to have to undo the whole thing and then redo it all to get the extra piece. If they decide that I need to give them the pieces back with the exchange, then I obviously will just have to do that, and I'll just do the jigsaw puzzle another time. But as it stands, I've left it like nearly completed. I think that was a 750 piece, so 649 pieces in place, hopefully waiting to get their replacement, but it was still fun either way. We really enjoyed it, and my husband has now got the real jigsaw puzzle bug, and he's been enjoying making jigsaw puzzles with me since pretty continuously, so it's nice to have a buddy when I'm putting these together, because making a jigsaw puzzle a month is on my 25 for 2025, so I'm really kind of nailing those bits, and it was a fun one. That jigsaw puzzle definitely, even if it turned out to be not fully complete, we did enjoy the process for sure. Something else that was on my 25 for 2025 that I was really hoping to do this year is to find cardio exercise that works for me. I love my yoga. I do my yoga. I'm not going to stop doing my yoga. I think it's great for my joints. I think it's great for stretching, deep breathing. Like, there's so much that goes on in yoga that I think is very beneficial. However, it's not really like intense cardio. It doesn't get my heart pounding. It doesn't get me breathing heavily. And I know that type of exercise is really good for me in other ways. So I had been thinking of wanting to do some swimming. I love swimming generally. I like being in the water. I grew up with a pool in our backyard in Chicago that I spent so much time in the summers, but my pool was an above ground pool. It wasn't a huge pool. I couldn't do laps or anything like that, but it was fun to play and splash around in. I know I'm a bit of a water baby, so I knew that I would enjoy swimming, but I never felt like I knew how to swim laps very well, like breaststroke. I took swimming lessons just for like safety, basically, if you're going to have a pool. And so I can tread water. I can do the doggy paddle. I can do the butterfly. I can do a bit of a backstroke, but I felt like if I was going to be doing proper laps in a swimming pool, I really wanted to get some lessons. And I'd looked into this previously and didn't really see anything around, but I found that my local pool does offer adult swimming lessons from like beginner to intermediate. And I thought, okay, cool. I'm not an absolute beginner, but I feel like I'm not an expert. I don't feel like I could do the lanes. When I've tried to do it before, I felt like I was overstraining myself, not doing the right stuff as far as like the rhythm with the breathing and things like that. The main issue that was holding me back though was finding a bathing suit. I'd mentioned before on my channel, I put on a little bit of weight. I'm basically a size bigger than I was maybe a year and a half ago and before that. And unfortunately, the bathing suits that I made for myself no longer fit. I mean, in fairness, those aren't really like sporty swimsuits anyway. And so I wanted to find something. I didn't want to sew a bathing suit, especially because I'm in like body fluctuation phase at the moment. I just wanted to buy a bathing suit, but I was not anticipating how difficult that was going to be. Buying a bathing suit with a fuller bust and getting good coverage and support is really, really difficult. I was finding a lot of swimsuits were like cut in way too much, like total side boob in a ridiculous way. Not much support at the front either, so things were kind of either like revealing too much or not really feeling like I was being held in tightly enough. I struggled. I ordered from like 3 different bathing suit companies, did not like what I was finding. I ended up finding one from a random, I think it's called like Bra Stop or something website. I'll put up the name of the brand of the bathing suit that I liked because that was definitely a winner for me. And it's just like a basic black swimsuit, but it works. It does a trick for what I wanted. And then I went along to the swimming lessons, which basically, as soon as I explained my swimming experience, she was like, yeah, this is not the class for you. The instructor was saying I was not supposed to be in that class, but I paid for the class. She was going to give me a hand. We were in like a 4-foot pool, so it wasn't really a proper deep pool. It's a kiddie pool, training pool. But really, honestly, I felt like I just needed to understand what I needed to do as far as like the rhythm with my breathing, when to breathe, how to like hold my neck straight and all those things. She gave me some pointers to basically get me to the stage where I felt like actually I can just do some laps in practice now. I know what I need to do. So it was definitely worthwhile doing that. And since then I have been doing laps in the pool. It's a pretty big pool. It's like 33 meters, which is quite significant to me. Like compared to what the pools that I had growing up in Chicago, when we go to the local pool, they were not that big at all. So doing like a lap back and forth or like a, full lap around is quite a lot for me. So I'm doing laps like one end and back. I'm taking breaks where I need to. I might get out of the pool, do a little bit of reading for a bit, and then go do another lap. For me, it's not about necessarily the number of laps that I'm doing or comparing myself to anybody else. The whole point for me is pushing myself. So if I go and do a lap and I'm feeling out of breath and I feel like that's enough, then that's enough. But I am trying to do like 3 at the moment. If I can do, I feel quite happy with myself. But the main thing is I feel like I'm definitely pushing my body. My heart is pounding. I'm breathing a bit more deeply. I'm needing to take breaks. And that is telling me that I am making myself do this cardio exercise that I really wanted to do. So I'm going to cross that one off the list because basically since I've started doing it properly in May into June now, I've been doing it twice a week and really enjoying it. So I'm going to say that's definitely one to cross off. So number 22, find cardio exercise that works for me. And right under that one, number 23, I also did in May, which was to visit Kew Gardens in the daytime. I've been to Kew Gardens quite a lot, and I've shared on my channel for the Christmas lights. I've gone at nighttime and had a little walk around. It's a botanical garden in London. It's a really well-known one. It's a beautiful botanical garden, but I hadn't actually seen it, I felt like. I'd only just wandered around in the dark, and it was really nice to go in the daytime. It's huge, really, so we didn't get to see everything. There's so much to it. It was fun to be able to go into some of the houses as well and see what's in there. I think it would be a place that would be just amazing to go all different times of the year. I would love to go back again at some other point, but it's nice to be able to cross that one off the list as well. So number 23, visit Kew Gardens in the daytime. So that is 2 more now crossed off the list. I do feel like the list is looking pretty bare, but I think so much of that is because a lot of the things I'm doing like piecemeal over the month, and I know there's other progress on there that isn't necessarily easy to see. One of them is number 25, to read 25 books this year. And I did finish one book in May that I started in April. It basically took me the whole month of April and the beginning of May to finish it. And that is because it is quite a chunky book. It is Hopscotch by Julio Cortezar. I feel like the best way to describe this is like a deconstructed novel. So it is a novel, but it's not necessarily in order that you're going to read it. So when you start reading the book, it tells you can read it from beginning to end if you want to. However, they also have a layout, which is the recommended layout, where you read a chapter and then at the end of the chapter it will tell you which one to go to next. So you're doing a little bit of like a all back, forth, middle, moving all around. Some of the chapters are like a fair decent, 10 pages or so. Some of the chapters are just like a paragraph or half a page. So it's a little bit hard to know where you are in the book. So I often will look at like where my bookmark is and know like, okay, I'm about this way through. I have an idea of how much more I'm going to be reading. But this one, it was not very easy to tell. But they do have at the beginning, they showed you like the order of the chapters in case you get a little bit lost or confused. But I think if you did get lost, you probably wouldn't remember which chapter you were at last time. So best is to just try to keep to it and try to keep organized with your bookmarks so you do not get lost. I will say on the whole, I wasn't super interested in the main narrative of the story, the kind of characters that they were telling the story of. They were okay, it was kind of interesting, but I was more just enjoying the process and the style of it. And there was basically like the novel itself was at the beginning, and then at the end there were some parts that some of it were characters and like things going on kind of interspersed from the novel, but some of it was just like poetry or like sections from other fake books or just, I don't know, like what their definition of love is and things like that. So it was a little bit all over the place, but like I said, it was a fun and interesting read. I wouldn't necessarily say it was my favorite book, but it was fun and I'm definitely glad that I read it. And after that, I moved on to some old favorites. So I got these books for my birthday. I had previously read them from the library, but I wanted to own them because I really enjoyed them. And it is the Maddaddam trilogy from Margaret Atwood. Now, this was the first Margaret Atwood that I ever read, and I kind of heard her name around, but I wasn't that familiar with her. This was before Handmaid's Tale came out as a TV series. It was after Handmaid's Tale had come out because that came out like in the 80s. But these books came out in like the 2010s, over a period of time. I think the last one might have come out in 2013. And I think I read these books not long after that. And the second one I'd seen in the library, it was just how I found out about it. And I picked it up, I read the back, I was intrigued, went to the front desk to check it out, and the librarian made some kind of comment that made it very clear that this was actually not the first book in a series. So I ended up having to then look up and see, okay, what actually should I be reading before this? And I ended up taking both books out, which meant I had 3 weeks to read 2 very long books. But well and truly, these books are so enjoyable to read. I love these books. I absolutely breezed through them in the 3-week period and then was really excited to get the third part of the trilogy. And as I reread them, it was very much the same experience. I was keeping these books around with me wherever I was so that I could just flip through, read a little bit more. It is such a fun trilogy. I think the thing that's so nice about it is that it works so well as a trilogy. And it's the first book is from one character's point of view. The second book incorporates a lot of the things from the first, but from other characters' points of view. And the third is kind of similar, but a little bit ties it together a little bit more and adds in some extra characters as well. But I felt like I really did enjoy these. These are basically dystopian future novels, which can be a little bit tiring. There's a lot of those out there. I don't think it was as kind of overdone at the time when these books did come out. But I do generally just really enjoy Margaret Atwood's writing style. I think she has really great characters, and I think these were really fun. The only thing I will say is that there was some really dark stuff in the first book, some really nasty stuff with like mentions of things about child pornography, which was a bit tough to read. I do think all this was intended to like paint the picture of what was going on in the world at the time, but I just want to give that as a bit of a warning for heads up if you are interested. But it's weird that basically these books are about some pretty dark stuff, but they were quite fun and enjoyable. There's a lot of humor sprinkled in there as well. There's a lot of humor in Margaret Atwood's writing in general, and I think these are my favorite books of hers that I have ever read, and I read a lot of her books. So it was nice to actually get these again. So I did end up finishing the first book, Oryx and Crake, in May, and then the Year of the Flood, the second book, I finished also in May, and I read the majority of the third book, Maddaddam, in May. I did finish it in June, but I'm going to mention it because I feel like they kind of go together, and it wasn't far into June by the time I finished it. Considering the amount of pages, I'm pretty impressed with how much I did manage to get through. For me, it's about the amount of books on my 25 for 2025, and I am putting down below like my rating out of 5 for all the books that I've been reading, with a little tally of where I am for my 25 books, and I think I'm on track. And definitely I do really recommend these books if you are curious to check out more Margaret Atwood. They are fantastic. I also celebrated a birthday in May, and I had a very fun birthday. My husband and I went to the Saatchi Gallery, which is one of my favorite art galleries in London. We went out for Mexican food for dinner, which is my favorite kind of food, so definitely a big win. And then after that, we went to go see Bjork's Cornucopia, which is a concert film. It was such a great show. I really enjoyed it. I love Bjork, so I was going to enjoy it. It was really interesting, visually so impressive. If you're a Bjork fan, highly, highly recommend. She's such an incredible artist, and it was a really fun birthday all around. One other big thing that I did in May was to paint my living room. This is something I've been talking about because my husband and I got some new furniture last year. We had previously had kind of hand-me-down things, and it was nice to be able to pick out things that were more our style, and we generally tend to go for things that are quite colorful. And we weren't quite sure what to do with the walls that would kind of bring everything together. And we decided on a kind of color that we wanted, and we were trying to find the exact match. And the one thing that we decided was really the closest that we wanted to go for was a Weezer album cover. They call it the Teal album, and I'll put the image up so you guys can see. I mean, the album is fine. I'm not super crazy about the album, and Weezer are a fun band. They're not my favorite band, but it was just the right color, so it just was what it was. And so we ended up finding, B&Q has this brand of paint called Valspar, and you can do a dropper thing where you can upload an image and it will find the exact match for you. And so we found one called Sail the Seas that I think is honestly spot on, such an impressive match. It was a whole thing to paint our living room, mainly just because the amount of stuff, the amount of media like books and CDs and the TV and video games and DVDs, it took a lot to move it all. We did it over a few days. It was more complicated than expected because then the curtain rail fell down and we had to replace that. But it looks so good. We are so happy with the outcome. I love the color, and I feel like it really brightens the room up. And then one other fun little thing from the month of May, if you are a sewing magazine reader and you have seen this copy of the Simply Sewing magazine, I think it's the May edition, issue 134. If you are to flip yourself through to page 53, you may see a familiar face. So I got my photo in the Simply Sewing magazine, and that was because of these two gorgeous ladies, Sam and Ruanne, the Yorkshire Sew Girl, and Frugalissima, who organized the Sew Frugal Challenge. The article is all about that challenge. It's a really lovely article, and I'm so happy for them. So excited to see that they got to be in there. But they were asking for some examples of things that people have made for the Sew Frugal Challenge, and they'd asked me if I would be happy to upload some photos for them or send some photos through to the magazine that they could use. It's the Westcliff jacket that I made from the Peppermint magazine. I love that jacket. It's such a cool jacket. It's all completely patchwork using scraps from old previous projects, all made of corduroy. It's definitely one of my favorite things that I've made for the Sew Frugal Challenge, and so I'm glad that they asked me for that particular garment. I thought that was a nice one to be able to include, and that was just a fun little bonus to get to see myself in the magazine. This is going to be my last video for a little while because I'm going to be going away soon, so there will be a gap. It might be 2, 3, 4 weeks depending on how I can get myself together once I do come back from my trip. I know I'm going to have lots of wonderful things to share with you guys. I would love to hear what you guys have planned over the next month. get me to feel excited about your sewing, about your life, what's going on with you guys. I feel like it's really nice to be able to share the other side as much as it is fun to share all the sewing stuff. I hope you guys did enjoy getting a bit of a catch up with me. Please do give me a like if you enjoyed my video. Make sure you're subscribed to my video to see upcoming videos, and I'll see you guys as soon as I'm back. Bye!